Now, the expander is similar in concept to a compressor, but it does the opposite. It increases rather than reduces the dynamic range above the threshold level. So you can use it to add liveliness and dynamics to your audio, give more accents and nuances between the loud and soft bits. Now we've got input and output metering, and here, instead of seeing gain reduction, we're seeing expansion in the dynamics when this meter is jumping. And we also have an auto gain, which is really nice. We can adjust the gain manually to try and balance it out. But if you want things to sound even in terms of the overall level, auto gain is your friend. So we start with the threshold knob, and that's set to threshold level. So signals above this level are expanded rather than reduced like in a compressor. And then the ratio knob sets the expansion ratio. So the ratio of the signal expansion is going to kick into effect when the signal crosses the threshold. Now, this is what we call an upward expander as opposed to a downward expander. Now, a downward expander increases the dynamic range below the threshold. In this case, it increases dynamic range above the threshold. So as a result of that, the ratio knob values range from 1 to 1 down to 0.5 to 1. Now, we have a knee control, and this determines the strength of the expansion at level when it gets close to the threshold. The lower the values we have here, the more it's going to be severe or immediate expansion. That's what we call a hard knee. And as we raise this up, we'll get a gentler expansion as threshold is crossed, and that's a softer knee. So we have an attack and release time constant, like with the compressor. So this determines how quickly the expansion happens once it crosses the threshold, and then how quickly it returns back to the original level once it's no longer crossing the threshold. Now we have peak and RMS modes, like we saw in the compressor. It can analyze the audio based on the peaks rather than averaging it out over time in RMS mode. And we have some options about whether to apply clipping above 0 dB. So we can turn it off where there's no clipping. We have a choice between soft and hard, which changes the signal around 0 dB in different ways. One is more smooth, the other is a bit more squared off distortion of the signal peak. So if you're really pushing it, you might want to experiment between the two. Now, I'm going to start with this on a simple arpeggiated part. I'm going to bypass this, and you'll hear there's some natural accents in this part. Now, let's say I want to bring out those accents more, make them a bit louder and make the softer notes a bit quieter, just to have more lively dynamics in this. Let's dial this in. It's crossing the threshold. So that's a nice subtle use of it where we're getting more dynamics from there. So it gives the part and the music a nice kind of bounce to it by having some notes jump up more than others. Go for a softer transition or harder. I like it better like that. And if I slow the attack down, we'll get less of the effect. Somewhere around the middle feels about right to me. A very big difference here in the two detection modes, but to me this works nicely on a part like this. So that's an idea of how you can use the expander, and I'll play it for you one more time in context, toggling it on and off. We'll continue with more in the next video.